Good evening, everyone. I'm Kiki Smith-Archipati, the Interim Executive Director of the Association for Cultural Equity, and I want to thank you all for joining us for another installment of Tradition Talks, our virtual speaker series, which highlights individuals who are approaching cultural heritage documentation in creative and impactful ways. Tonight, we are joined by Sandra Bell, Kendell, Julien, and Ricardo Springer from the JouvayFest Collective, a nonprofit cultural organization dedicated to preserving and presenting traditional Trinidad and Tobago style Jouvay through education, performance, and immersive experiences that honor its emancipatory roots and living community legacy. Sandra is a third-generation Carnival costume designer, producer, and cultural architect whose work bridges artistry, education, and preservation. As co-founder of JouvayFest Collective, she has helped shape Jouvay as both a street practice and a curated cultural experience, producing performances, recordings, exhibitions, and arts education programs that honor tradition while training the next generation of culture workers. We also have Kendell, a Trinidadian culture bearer from John Laventil, is that correct?
Laventil.
Laventil, who has spent decades sustaining the spiritual, historical, and communal traditions of Jouvay through festivals, bands, spiritual gatherings, and international exchange. And finally, we have Ricardo, who brings his decades of experience in broadcast, post-production, and digital distribution to support the documentation, storytelling, and wider circulation of cultural knowledge, ensuring that Jouvay's history and contemporary expressions can be shared responsibly across platforms and communities. So thank you, Sandra, Kendell, and Ricardo for being here with us tonight. I know we wanted to start off before I even ask any questions, maybe with a little music in the spirit of Jouvay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Here we go.
Oh, wonderful.
The Juve Man by Charlie's Roots.
Yes, that's what's happening as we speak in Trinidad and Tobago, especially tonight is Tuesday night. It's the first traditional mass competition, mass meaning masquerade competition in Allen
Adam Smith.
Smith Square. Tuesday night is the beginning of the traditional characters competition.
Wait, so is tonight a kickoff night in Trinidad?
It's one of the many things that are happening in Trinidad right now.
Okay.
Talking right now. If we were in Trinidad, that's where we would be.
Instead, we're just bringing it here to the internet. It's wonderful.
Yes. So tonight, Tuesday, and then they have other competitions on Thursday night at that particular Adam Smith Square down in Woodbrook, Port of Spain.
Well,
so, yes.
I think we should start off just because I think a lot of people, or I don't know, maybe everyone knows this, but I feel like some people may not have the background on what Jouvay is. So I think just starting there, like what is Jouvay? Where did it come from? Tell me more.
Well, do you want me? to say, or Kendell?
No, you got it, Sandra.
Okay. Well, yeah. I went straight into that because that music sets the tone for everything. The rhythm. It's not a jam and wine. It's not a soca jump up. That is the sweet rhythm of how one would move in Juve. The word Juve is a French word, which is the indication that the French were the colonizers at the time of when Juve merged into itself. It means opening of the day, actually opening of the day, or I open. Why? Because that cultural expression was granted after many battles and pain and fights for cultural expression of the freed African people. In the 1800s, actually 1700s, the French plantation owners brought their enslaved Africans to cultivate sugarcane in Trinidad and among other Caribbean islands, like Martinique, Guadeloupe, Grenada. They were all colonized by the French, and so therefore, the whole that whole Caribbean area was used for sugarcane cultivation for export to the European countries. Who cultivated it? African, enslaved African people. So this word Juve has a lot of weight. The French brought their Catholic religion and their rites of spring, which, as we know, there are no rites of spring in the Caribbean. It's either rainy or it's dry. Okay, but people bring their traditions. So at that time, between January 6th and Ash Wednesday, which is the Catholic part, they celebrated with mask balls and music and dressing up and lots of wine and lots of food and partying among themselves. However, the people who had to serve them, who had to help them with their ball gowns, who had to play the music, who had to clean up and stir the pot, were the enslaved Africans. The enslaved Africans lived in places that we know called the barrack yards, which is a barrack, like, soldiers live in barracks. And these barrack yards were generally in back of the big house. You find them a lot in New Orleans. There's to the side of the house, an alleyway. You walk to the back, there's a courtyard. In all of that courtyard were shacks, paper thin shacks made out of whatever the enslaved Africans could find. No privacy, no running water, no toilet. So need I go on, right? So this is the atmosphere in which the enslaved Africans lived and served their French plantation owners. And some of these places were more, well, in that time, the area of Port of Spain was agricultural, lots of cane fields, etc. So it's nothing really like what it looks like now. So the enslaved Africans were there among all these festivities, but were not allowed to participate. They were not allowed to play their drums because the colonists felt like they were carrying messages and they had no idea what these messages were. So the drums were forbidden. There were some emancipated Africans, but mostly were enslaved, and they created their own way of celebrating this so-called Bacchanal. So this Carnival, which occurred from January 6th through Ash Wednesday, when you went to church, you put the ashes on your head, and you beg for forgiveness for all the things that you did while you were having a great time of this release of the flesh, which is what Carnival is. So, because of their role uh, as the workers, as the people who didn't get paid for what they did, they were very upset because they didn't get to participate, even though they tried their best. So finally, as we merged into the 1800s, the British took over. The French was like, I'm to hell with this. I'm going back to Martinique or wherever they went to. And the English then took over, which made it much worse. However, the enslaved Africans and some freed Africans started the battle for freedom, the battle for self-expression. And I'm just jumping ahead a bit. In 1881, finally, the British, after the Camboulet riots, burning down the cane fields, poisoning some of the slave masters and the plantation owners, and lots of turmoil and battle for emancipation, even though emancipation was granted in 1835. But that didn't stop the British from having ridiculous things like internship, where they figured they had to let you work for 3 or 4 years to be free and learn how to be free. So it was a lot of turmoil, battle, cane fields burning, poisoning, etc. And finally, the British authorities granted the recognition of Jouvay. And Jouvay, for the freed and some still enslaved Africans, happened at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. This is why you wonder, why are these Black people out here at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning? What are they doing? They were doing what they had to do, because when the sun came up, folks had to go back and work and stir the pot and help their masters prepare for the Carnival in the daytime with their costuming and the music and all of that. However, our ancestors, I'm from Trinidad, Kendell is from Trinidad, and Ricardo has Trinidadian in him too, made the best of it. And out of that struggle, out of that time, grew the music, grew the traditional characters, grew the type of food that you would eat on a J'ouvert morning. And then, of course, have to go back and do what you were supposed to be doing, which is helping the plantation owners and the ex-slave masters. So I had to say that because we have to put it in the context of how this occurred. You know, that word J'ouvert, it was a word that had to be fought for, battle, people killed, etc., etc. So it's important to know the background of it so that you would understand what's happening now. Sorry it took me so long, but I have to. I don't have a choice.
It's important. This is important stuff. This is what makes it special and unique. And this is why I'm assuming, I imagine, this is why you were drawn to making sure that it continues.
Right. Making sure that people understand why they're jumping up, why they're having so much fun, why it's so joyful, and all of that is because they were celebrating emancipation.
And it was a hard one. It was a hard won joy. It sounds like.
And still we're fighting for that.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about how you all came together or how JouvayFest Collective started to celebrate Jouvay.
Well, see, I don't want to do all the talking, but I'll start this off and um well, I come from a carnival family. I'm a Morris from Belmont, I have to say. My grandfather used to make the costumes for those same ex-slave masters and plantation owners, right? Where when they paraded in the street, they did not step on the ground. They were in donkey carts and things like that. And my grandfather, who was an artist and helped to put these costumes and these things together. So I grew up in a yard. I actually grew up in a mass camp because then my uncles and aunties, they took over, and my uncle Ken Morris Ibaye was the most famous of all, who was like considered to be a national treasure because he had his unique way of making copperwork. So I would, when they would drag me here to America when I was little, I grew up with them. I grew up with my uncles and them. When I was 12, they brought me to America. And it was a painful transition, I have to tell you. But I grew up in the atmosphere where costumes were made and bands came out and everybody came to that yard for my uncles to do engineering, etc. So it was in my blood, even though I thought I would be an accountant. Um, I started when I came here, I started becoming involved in the carnival here, and then I would go back every year to help my uncles and aunties in that 107B Belmont Circular Road, which we still have up to today. So when I joined with Pagua Mass, which was like the big mass people in Juve at that time, and we really developed a rapport. And I was like, wait a minute, we're doing this, and then Labor Day is over, and then what are we doing with this information and all these costumes and things? So I said, well, let me try to organize something so that we could go abroad and share this story, especially to Africa, because our African ancestors and relatives, they didn't know anything about this Juve situation. So that's how it started. And then, of course, I made it in such a way that folks who were really interested in this sort of thing could join, could be part of the collective, whether it's musicians, designers, dancers, etc., etc. And then, of course, the folks gravitated to to this historical and very important part of our lives. So that's the best I could say. Yes. And, and and here we are. This is our newsletter that Ingerly Black created for us, one of our members. We try to have a newsletter like this every year to highlight what we've done all year, what we are doing all year, because Juve doesn't finish anymore. We just do it all year long. We have activities all year long. And so this newsletter gives everybody an idea of what we do all year long to keep Juve alive. Compliments of Ingerly Black. And I'm going to let somebody else talk. I'm talking too much.
Well, I'm gonna jump in because Juve is my thing. I think that Juve is the greatest community festival that I've ever experienced. Being leader of the 2J and Friends Juve band, it gives me a certain type of satisfaction. Our band was developed out of our community efforts. A group of expatriates from a place in Trinidad called John John, where the steel band was said to be born, right on the outskirts of Port of Spain, where you had to come and see the Juve. You were born into this, and it lived in you. And being transplanted into North America, I thought that I might have lost an interest. But in North America, in this new land, in order for us to be the community that we were created and we were born to be, we had to get that common ground. And that common ground was the masquerade, was the J'ouvert. You understand? And we, the people of Tuje and Friends, we are invested together with JouvayFest Collective to tell our story. In days gone by, our ancestors and the people before us, they played mass J'ouvert with what they had. But now we play a J'ouvert that has evolved. We play what we want. We tell a story. You know, we have the traditional characters that we make sure and maintain every year. But we also add theater to this thing because we want the people to stay interested. We want the community to look forward to Tuje and Friends and all that J'ouvert involves. You heard Miss Bell talking about the struggle. We are still struggling, but we are not giving up because we are not taught to give up. We are taught to tell our story. J'ouvert allows us to tell our story and the story of our ancestors. And Brooklyn has a unique J'ouvert. I'm challenging you as a host to come out on Labor Day morning and see what J'ouvert is all about and get a hands-on experience of this thing called J'ouvert.
I mean, how early are we talking?
Well, because of the city in which we live and the and things that have been experienced, the J'ouvert time, we don't come out at 2 in the morning anymore. We try to come out at 6. Safety, being good citizens, that type of thing. But at 6 in the morning, we can still tell the story.
And I understand that you are one of the greatest characters.
I became this character when the JouvayFest Collective took us to Senegal. And the Something Positive family and the collective was putting on a show at the Renaissance Monument in Senegal. And they needed a midnight rubber. And it was thrust upon me. But I always had that ability to speak because the midnight rubber has to come and he has to captivate and he has to, I am KJ from JJ. I am here to let you know the mass have to play. Different midnight rubbers come with different stories, but that's another story for another time. But the midnight rubber and all the other traditional characters add to the richness that is J'ouvert. We may not practice as diligently as we want to practice because we have been replanted. But we, the JouvayFest Collective, we are trying our utmost best to ensure that the generation after us learn and know these traditional characters. We have a collection. We have the baby doll, we have the dragon, we have the peregrinade, we have the fancy sailor, we have the bat, we have the J'ouvert characters in galore. For anyone out there who wants to explore this aspect of our J'ouvert.
Right. So Ricardo.
Yes, yeah, I'm here.
Say something.
I mean, to piggyback off of what Sandra and Kendell just mentioned, the richness of the culture and the traditions that were born out of this celebration, I mean, for me, go vastly beyond what people see on the surface in terms of just looking at it as just a party and a fun time. There's so much more depth into it in terms of, you know, just even the characters, as Kendall explained. Like each one of these characters have an origin story, that's deeply rooted in, you know, some form of history related to the oppression that our ancestors faced and overcame. It's not just about dancing, whining, and fetting. Like it's spiritual, and to Kendall's point, you don't really get the essence of that until you actually participate in a Juve. You feel it, and the the celebration has so many layers to it. There's the artistry of it, with the costumes and the decor that you have. Then you also have the musical element to it, with these instruments that are used in the celebration are not, they're not instruments that you go to a music store and get. These were handcrafted, pieces, of essentially artifacts, things that people just had laying around that they transformed into instruments. So when you see it, in real time, you're like, wow, like it'll amaze you the 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 how beautiful the sound is coming from these
It's
instruments
coming
that are
together.
not traditional instruments. Like it's fascinating, that this is it's like an orchestra, playing, but using spoon and bottle, biscuit tins, a tire iron, things that people would take for granted. It's like, oh, these are just spare parts of a car. It's like, no, that's the beauty of this tradition. Like, being able to create out of nothing, or what someone might seem as nothing. Then you have the culinary aspect, that comes along with Juve. Their traditional foods that we eat during the celebration, and that have been carried on from our ancestors, because at the time, when this tradition started, that's all they had. And what we've done and what we're trying to continue to do is to preserve the traditions in its origin form, because there's a story to all of that. Like, if you don't know that, and you don't have the contextual information, you don't understand why some of the traditions are still performed to this day and why they carried on. And that's what we're trying to do with this collective, and the in the form of JouvayFest now, is we're trying to transcend this celebration into new meanings, because it's all storytelling. And as you know, in today's day and age, storytelling comes in many different art forms now. And that's what we're trying to do with JouvayFest, is to spread the messaging, preserve the cultural traditions of Juve in as many different mediums as we can, and to encourage participation, you know, not just from older generations, but from younger generations too. And part of that, in doing that, is also to educate. So it's like it's edutainment. It's education and entertainment at the same time. You can have fun, come and fet with us, but also learn, some of this rich history that just has just so many layers and depth to it.
Well, I know that one of the things that is really working towards accomplishing that goal is the Juve Genesis project, which I experienced some of that firsthand last year at was it last year, year before? Um, you're muted, Sandra. Um,
Year before 2023.
right. So let's talk a little bit more about that because I think this is something that I know is constantly developing and is really a way for you to the bring the Juve experience and bring this information and just educating people in different places as well. So I know that it goes beyond Brooklyn. It goes beyond just, the stuff that you're doing in Brooklyn and beyond its origins in Trinidad. So, and you had mentioned that you took it to Senegal. Like I know you're going everywhere with, with JouvayFest.
I think yeah, like both Kendall and Ricardo said, it's storytelling. And we are going to tell that story. Okay? And we're going to tell it in many ways through exhibitions, through workshops, through food, through music, through openings for people's festivals, through any way we can that somebody will pay for. Because we know that it is absolutely necessary to have and it has to be paid for. So we have been progressing from where we started in Brooklyn, where you first saw our first exhibition at the Lefferts Historic House. And we had 5 rooms in that house, which was built by enslaved people here in Brooklyn on Native American land right off of Flatbush Avenue where the Juve passes. So, I mean, it just sort of fell into our head. We couldn't make that up. So, we, we're like, okay, we have to take this to all those cities, that have Carnival because the carnival is economically beneficial to every single city that it's in. And I have to give it to the Trinidadians because everybody Trinidadians land, they want to have their carnival. Okay. And so we so far have taken that exhibition to go ahead, Kendall, tell where.
In Brooklyn, we have been to the WIATCA, West Indian American Day Carnival Association, um, office space there at the old Brooklyn Armory. We have graced the Barclays Center with our exhibition, and it was so well received. We have just came back from Miami at the museum in Brickell there, and the manner in which this Juve Genesis immersive experience was embraced and was enjoyed, it gives you, it gives one the greatest encouragement with regards to Juve culture and sharing and spreading the history of Juve. It's tedious work, it's hard work, but our ancestors worked hard as well. So this is just like it's to me it's a recurring decimal. We're just presenting what our people has experienced, even though it's sweat and tears to bring it to where it's at now. Our people had a lot of sweat and tears to make it happen from its inception. We are also working to take this exhibition at other locations in Florida, and Miss Bell knows so well what's next with regards to the Juve Genesis immersive experience.
Yes. Well, everything needs structure. And so this is where, we're really thankful for Ricardo because he knows how to keep it together in terms of like, how we should proceed, how we should present ourselves, looking at how to elevate it, tell that old story in new ways, which we are looking to raise money to be able to tell the story in new ways. Ricardo, tell everybody about some of the new ways we are telling this Juve story?
Well, yeah, we like I said, exploring multiple mediums in how we we present the our exhibition. So, for one, we have the beautiful and elaborate costumes that are handcrafted and designed by world-renowned designers. Like, these are costumes that have been donated to us, um, by people across the diaspora, and and in many cases, these are costumes that have won in competition. Um, uh, we also have the instruments that have been donated to us. So there's the cultural artifact piece of it, to the exhibition. Like I said, where we have costumes and instruments on display. We also will feature and highlight works from various artists, whether it be photographers or painters, who donate some of their work or their collections to our exhibition during the runs. Um, we also produce documentaries. For every city that we do an installation in, we do a short documentary, um, explaining and depicting the origin story of Juve, but also tapping into the diaspora and in that local community. Uh, you know, where they're at, where they came from, how the celebration has grown in that city, from its origination to where it's at now. And we do that in collaboration and participation with key stakeholders in the community of those cities. We also have a virtual reality experience that people really like, where we are transporting people uh, to Port of Spain, where you can get the experience of chipping on the road during a Juve procession, um, um, in St. James. Uh, Also, giving people the experience of uh, the Blue Devil performance that happens every year, in a part of Trinidad. So, just being very creative and not limiting ourselves, like I said, to traditional forms of expression. We've also added a 3D hologram experience for people to take in. Like I said, just different ways of grabbing people's attention and being able to tell our story. The story never changes. We just find new ways to tell it.
And that's Ricardo and Mario Lathan and DeAndre Vidal. They are the filmmakers. They are the ones who, um, take it to from the traditional storytelling to a new way of presenting um, the story, and people love it. We have to be able to sustain it. We want to be able to take that hologram, which is very expensive. We want to own it, and when we go to the different places, we will be able to take this hologram, and you'll see those characters like they're alive talking to you. And so we want to continue to do that. So um, uh, right now, we are looking for people to sponsor us, to donate, and whether it's money, whether it's in kind, so that we could elevate and carry on the story and go from, okay, we were in New York, now we were in Miami, now we're ready to go to the next city. So how do you do that? Just like the Van Gogh uh, immersive experience, we want to do the same travel. So, but we have to get people on board to help us take it to the next place. And believe me, we always have an opening. We try to have a big opening wherever we go, where we have the traditional characters come to life. The baby doll, the Dame Lorraine, the Jab Jab, the Midnight Rubber. We have the actual characters there, and we also have the food and the rhythm section, which is what Ricardo was explaining with a grater, right? The grater, the tire iron, the shock shock, the what else? Bottle and spoon, and the chants that go along, the chants and the traditional songs that go along with these traditional instruments, which includes the steel pan, which came out of John John, where Kendell is from. So, yeah, we give you that experience. We want people to understand why you're jumping up in the street, whining, whatever you're doing, where that comes from. Where did it come from? Why are people doing this? J'ouvert is the answer. Without J'ouvert, there is no carnival.
There's no carnival.
Let's not forget the Tambu Bamboo.
It was a progression, you know. You ban the drums, we find something else. Tambu bamboo, steel pan. You might have stopped the drum, but you didn't stop the beat. You know, stop the sound, but not the beat. It never came out of us.
And even as the diaspora has grown, globally, where you have expats literally all over the world, and you have carnivals popping up, in London, in Japan, all over the U.S., whether it's Miami, Brooklyn, Toronto, L.A., Houston, Vegas, even now Atlanta, Boston. All of these cities have, the diaspora and the population and the community has grown large enough to where they're able to put on their own carnival celebrations, but not all of them have a J'ouvert. And that is very, very important. And we feel like that's a void that we can fill by being able to bring our exhibition to all these cities, to present an authentic opening to their carnival season. So that's part of our goal is, like I said, to take the J'ouvert Genesis experience every and anywhere the diaspora is, and there's a carnival celebration and beyond. Not just limited to that, but we feel like we can be a missing piece to a lot of these celebrations in other cities.
And are there any organizations that do what you do, that focus on J'ouvert, in terms of, like, are you more or less unique in?
We are one of one.
Okay.
I
mean,
can
that's what
say
I
that
assumed, but
now there are other organizations that may do components of what we do. So you have organizations that they have their own rhythm section, that may world renowned and travel abroad, or performing art company that do reenactments of key elements of J'ouvert, but there aren't any that incorporate all of the elements like we do.
Kendell, were you going to say something?
No, I am just encouraging people to come and experience the Brooklyn J'ouvert under the direction of the J'ouvert City International that hosts the annual competition. Come out. It's on the route starts at Grand Army Plaza and goes down Flatbush into Empire and ends on Nostrand and Midwood down there. But it speaks it speaks freedom. It speaks expression. It speaks community. And that is what we need.
Yeah, I mean, I even think it's even key to mention, we were invited this past year to open the official Miami Juve this past year, and we were the only traditional Juve band on the road. Um, you know, all the other bands were, big trucks, big sound system, but we were the only one, traditional band, traditional characters, starting off our Juve with the morning prayer, keeping it, like I said, very tied to and preserving the origin and the traditions. Um, that's what we're fighting for, and in trying to communicate to the masses with our efforts in preserving that.
And I just wanted to mention, because I don't think anyone has mentioned this yet, but this is an award-winning band that you guys have.
Yes, we have
Multiple
won a
times.
number of Juve
Yeah.
titles. We have also won individual and queen categories as well. But we play fancy mass. We tell a story. So for 2025, we did a tribute to Calypso Rose. We called the band Queen of the Road. Calypso Rose was one of the first women calypsonians that penetrated the the Calypso King competition in Trinidad and forced them to rename it the Calypso Monarch so it could be inclusive of both male and female. She was a UNESCO Goodwill Ambassador, a Triple Crown winner. She represented Calypso all over the world. She was the queen of. She still remains the queen of Calypso, and she's our Rose. She's still alive. You can go to YouTube, pull up her music. You can go take a look at our newsletter. We also use the Juve platform to pay tribute and to represent things in our community that speaks of who we are as a people, as persons who are invested in ensuring that our culture stays alive here in North America. Brooklyn has the best Juve all around. Okay.
I believe it.
So we're already preparing for 2026.
That's right.
Okay.
So what do we have in store for this year?
We want to take you somewhere else. So as the time draws closer, we would properly identify and point to you the place where we are going. Okay. So it's a secret for now.
Okay.
Just get yourself ready.
Sign up to the mailing list. Wait and see.
Yes.
Yeah. And we hope to be in Florida again this year. This year into next year. We're working on that right now. So we want to do at the History Miami Museum. It was basically a small room, but we went, of course, 100%. We don't go less than 100%.
No, we don't.
And so in our next step, we want to include some of those uh, 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 elevation. Ricardo, help me out. We want to include some of those
Activations?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll take advantage of any opportunities for pop-up activations. Like Kendell mentioned, our activation with the Brooklyn Nets for their West Indian Day celebration was a tremendous success. Even for one day, we literally, had to turn that setup, install, and tear down, within 24 hours, but it was well worth it. and especially to be able to do it on such a large stage, in one of the, the strongest, communities that
Arenas.
we have, excellence in Brooklyn, was very important. So we hope to do more of that. Like I said, wherever the opportunities may present themselves.
Yes, I just want to add, maybe I didn't tell you this, Ricardo. I think I told Kendall, but there's been a lot going on. We uh, we were invited by the Prospect Art Alliance because Prospect Park is our home.
Yes.
And they asked for us to send our costume, beautiful Juve costumes, pictures to them so it could be put on the jumbotron.
On the Jumbotron?
That's that big screen they got outside of Barclay.
Okay.
So I didn't get to tell you that, Ricardo. It's so much going on, right? But that just happened, right? They were just invited. I just sent them the pictures, and folks will be able to look up at that jumbotron and see our work. Oh, so when that
That's
happens,
Times Square of Brooklyn right there.
we're gonna make a
Yes.
big deal out of it. And then we have coming up at Brooklyn Academy of Music. We have on March the 19th where they have a Caribbean series and it's free to the public. You have to buy food and drinks, but we are presenting Hearts of Steel Band, and Anika Berry, the up and coming hot soca artist, along with our masqueraders from 2J and Friends. We see opportunity to show off our beautiful costumes, and BAM, Brooklyn Academy of Music, is a good place for that. Yeah, so that's a couple of things that's coming up.
This all sounds great. I will hopefully be there.
Yes,
I invite you all to join me.
yes. So, okay.
Look forward to having you.
Um, really quick, so we're closing in on an hour, and I don't want to keep you all too long, but if anyone has any questions for Sandra or Ricardo or Kendall or just in general, please feel free to put them in the chat. Otherwise, we can just, is there anything you want to say in closing? Uh, Anything we missed?
No, well, I would say support us. Go to the website, JouvayFest.com. Reach out to us, get involved. We're always looking for contributors to work with us, to work with the exhibition. And we're always in need of funding, so donate. That's a big initiative for us right now. So yeah, hit the website. You can email us at JouvayFestInc@gmail. Reach out to us. Like I said, whether it's donating or wanting to collaborate, wanting to get involved. We have a ambassadors program, that we stand up in with every activation in every city and workshops to help teach people how they could be ambassadors in their community, and how they can preserve their culture through different initiatives and community collaboration. So there are lots of ways to get involved, and it takes a village. So yes, get involved.
So, I have to say that we have a great team. I just can't talk about how much I appreciate our team. We have some good folks. I mean, like talented and dedicated, and I just want to say thank you. Because I couldn't make it up. It's just amazing, and we're looking for a bright, bright, bright future with all for all of us. all our team, Lee Black, who does our social media, and she works as my co-curator when we got to go and set up and break down the exhibitions. And Ricardo, who is just so on point in terms of, making sure the accounting, getting our pitch deck correct, and his associates that he's brought in, like Mario Lathan, who's award-winning filmmaker, and DeAndre, who's absolutely fantastic. And then we've got Kendell, who you can't even describe like who he is, because we call him Leader Kendell. Okay.
Holy.
The whole 2J and Friends community, they present the biggest community picnic. I haven't seen anybody else like that. And then other people try to imitate it. So, then we have Sandra Owe, and then we have people like you, Kiki, who support us, and City Law, who has been great support.
Tremendous.
Yes, really, really helpful. Lefferts Historic House with Dylan Yates and Maria. Amazing people who have been supporting us. Wiatka as well, they have their ups and downs, but they know we're top dog, and they always invite us to come on the parkway in the daytime after we've been out all night for Juve. So we really developing more associates, like in Florida with Julien Smart and Kane TV and Takia and the other the Miami International, Broward, Miami. I got to get it right. Broward, Miami Carnival 1 committee. So, we want to keep our folks close, and so that we could continue to do the work and get the support that we need to continue this work. So, I hope I didn't leave anybody out. But we've had Sandra Owe. Oh my God, she does such great graphic work, and Najami, who we started doing the tours, the Carnival tours, and now she's doing it for every Labor Day. She goes from the different mass camps, and she has a trolley, and they provide drinks and food. So all of these things help to make up the JouvayFest Collective. All of these great partnerships is amazing, and we look forward to continuing the work.
Well, I look forward to seeing the work.
Yeah.
I think we all do. Thank you again. Also, thank you all so much again for coming on and talking with me. I think we had talked about maybe closing out with a song as well. Come in as you end.
Was it the same song?
I mean, I don't
Yes,
know.
I would say yes.
Why not? That was a good one.
Keep the Juve word in there, in our heads.
We know about it.
Nobody had any questions. I'm amazed.
We were very thorough.
Yeah.
Very thorough, yes.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Kiki. Thank you, Ace, for inviting us to do this talk.
Well, you're always a pleasure to work with. So
thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you, guys.
great. All right. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Night.
Okay.